Student engagement is a term that's thrown around a lot. You hear teachers saying that their students weren't engaged, or they need to increase the engagement, or students were really engaged. But what does that really mean? And so what I did was I went through the literature and really read up on what people mean when they talk about engagement. And what I found was that there are really three types of student engagement. First one is behavioral engagement. This is our students actively and physically involved in learning activities. So that one's pretty straightforward. Are they turning in assignments? Are they participating in discussions and things like that? And it's fairly easy to recognize. In an online environment, it can be a little harder because you're not there with them and you're not watching them. And some students will actually have what's called lurking behaviors, where they will go and they'll read lots of discussion board posts, but they won't actually post themselves very often. And there is a way to kind of recognize that lurking behavior and get a better understanding of students' behavioral engagement beyond just their demonstrative activities, such as making discussion board posts and submitting assignments. And we'll talk about that later. The next one is cognitive engagement. So this is, are they putting forth the mental energy to understand and to build an understanding of the content. We've talked a lot about this in the initiative when we talked about assessments and how do you assess student understanding and creating engaging assessments and things like that that really make them use higher order thinking skills. A lot of times students don't have the learning skills in order to engage with the content. And so as a teacher, there are some times when you need to specifically address those lack of learning skills. And by doing that, you can actually increase students' cognitive engagement. The last one that I've seen is affective engagement. And this is, how are students reacting emotionally to learning activities and learning tasks? Do they enjoy what they're doing? And this can be really important because a lot of what we do is to prepare students to apply their understanding in the workplace and in real world situations. And if they don't like what they're learning, they probably won't use it later on. That's especially true when you're working with pre-service teachers. And what I found when I taught pre-service teachers is I could get them to learn how to use technology in my technology integration courses. But then at the end of the semester, some of them would say, I can do it, but I'm never going to because I think it's not important or whatever. And so you really have to try to assess their affective engagement as well as their behavioral and cognitive engagement. This can be more difficult online because in a face-to-face environment, you're constantly evaluating students' affective, behavioral, and cognitive engagement. Whether you realize it or not, you notice when students are yawning, or when they're putting their head on the desk, or when they're not commenting, or when you're asking questions and you're getting a lot of blank stares. So you're constantly measuring these three types of student engagement. Online, you should be doing the same thing. You should be regularly assessing students for these different types of engagement, but you have to do it in a different way because it's not as easy online, but there are some ways to do it, and in some ways it can be more effective. So that's what this module will be talking about. And just to help you remember the different types, we've called this the ABCs of student engagement. So that's affective, behavioral, and cognitive engagement.